Imagine if you met your soulmate in high school or college. I know this has happened for some of you, but for those of you that did not get to experience this, this video is for you. What's up everyone, it's my Chua and welcome back to my channel. It is currently middle of September while I'm filming this video, so it's officially school season. And I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to recommend some romances I've read that are set in school. Now these books may not necessarily dive deeply into the student life, right? But at some part of the book, there will be some school related scenes, okay? So without further ado, let's dive right into the recommendations. The first book I want to recommend is Corrupt by Penelope Douglas, and this is the first book of the Devil's Night series. So there are 4 main books in this series and like 2 novellas, I believe. This book does have dual timelines, so we have the present chapters and then we have the past chapters, and that's where most of the school environment comes in. In the past chapters, we are currently in high school, right? And we are introduced to this group of 4 men who they call the 4 horsemen, okay? So that is Michael, Kai, Damon, and Will. So they are pretty much the rich, popular, untouchable guys of the school, and nobody ever wants to cross them and nobody ever wants to get on their bad side. They each do get their own separate book throughout the series, right? But this first book specifically follows Michael and Rika, okay? So Rika is our heroine, and she is actually Michael's younger brother's girlfriend at that time. But he does notice that she's very aware of him, and she pretty much can't keep her eyes off of him. Every year on Devil's Night, the 4 horsemen take it upon themselves to kind of like pull these pranks on the town, right? So they've been doing this for several years and it's kind of become a tradition. Fast forward to present day, Rika is currently attending college, right? And she moves into this new apartment that is owned by Michael's family. So Michael thinks that this is the perfect opportunity to seek revenge on Rika, okay? Because 3 years ago on Devil's Night, the other 3 horsemen were sent to jail, and apparently Rika had something to do with it. So we have this kind of like enemies to lovers situation going on, right? Because now in present day, the other 3 horsemen are released from jail and they have this plan to make Rika's life a living hell. Obviously, as you read through the book, you'll find out what had happened 3 years ago and why there's such a big revenge plot going on. This book can be read as a standalone, but if you decide to continue with the series, you will want to read them all in order to figure out what had happened, okay? People do consider this a dark romance. I personally didn't think it was too dark, but it's not your typical light and fluffy read neither. The next book I have is also by Penelope Douglas, and this is called Punk 57. So I would consider this one a bully romance. In this book, we're following Misha and Ryan, okay? And they were like pen pals from elementary school. Misha is our hero and Ryan is our heroine, right? And because of their unique names, their teachers thought that they were the same gender, right? So that's how they were paired as pen pals. Ever since then, they quickly became very good friends, right? And they continued to write to each other all the way until their senior year in high school. They both agree that they will never seek each other out and will never look each other up on social media, right? Until one day, Misha unintentionally finds out who Ryan is. The problem is, Misha finds out that Ryan was not the person that he always pictured her to be, okay? And he realizes that he actually hates her in person. Ryan is that popular girl in school, okay? So she hangs out with the bullies, she's a bully herself, and she wasn't that caring, loving girl from the letters. So at this point, Misha's like, I feel like I was being deceived after all of these years, right? And so he actually transfers to her school just so he can give her a taste of her own medicine. Obviously, we do get all of the high school drama in this book, and we deal with very toxic relationships, but regardless, it was a good time. The next recommendation I have is actually a duet, and this is Binding 13 and Keeping 13 by Chloe Walsh. So in this book, we are following a unique unique relationship between Johnny and Shannon. Shannon had just transferred to Tallman College, right? And right on the first day of school, she is rushing to her first class. Since she is late, she decides to run across the rugby field, right? But while doing so, she gets hit in the head with a rugby ball. Enter Johnny. So he was the guy who kicked the rugby ball and hit Shannon, right? So when he sees all of this going down, he rushes to help Shannon, and this was kind of their meet cute. Ever since then, Johnny becomes very interested in Shannon, right? And he realizes that there's a lot more to her and why she transferred to their college in the first place. This is a very slow burn romance, and you will have to read both books to get their happily ever after, right? I will say that this book does talk about very heavy topics, and it does get very graphic at times, so definitely check out the trigger warnings. This book is easily one of my favorite books of the year. Okay, so I had to split this up into two parts, right? And it is so gloomy today. I hope the lighting and everything is still okay, but let's keep on going with the recommendations. Next up, I have The Deal by Elle, and this is the first book of the Off-Campus series. So the rest of the books in the series are also set in college, but if I gotta be honest, this is my favorite one of them all. So in this book, we're following Garrett and Hannah, and they both share the same economics class, right? So Garrett is this star hockey player at his college, and he is very, very close to getting kicked off of the team because he can't seem to keep his grades up. Because of that, he does ask Hannah to tutor him, right? And he found out that Hannah was actually the only person who passed their economics exam. Of course, Hannah is reluctant, right? She's just like, I don't need to waste my time or energy on this cocky hockey player. So right off the bat, she does reject him. However, Garrett doesn't back down easily, right? And he soon realizes that Hannah is crushing on this basketball player. And so he uses this to his advantage, and he's just like, I will strike up a deal with you. If you agree to tutor me, then I will fake date you in return so that you can gain more popularity. And so this is supposed to make this other guy notice her a bit more. Eventually, Hannah caves in, and she does accept this offer, right? So after spending so much time together, getting to know each other and building this friendship, eventually they start crossing over the lines of their relationship without realizing it. So obviously we have some fake dating going on. We have this stranger to friends to lover situation, and I actually really like their friendship dynamic in this book, right? Hannah does have some trauma in her past that surfaces, and Garrett does help her overcome this. I really enjoyed the other books in this series as well, so definitely pick those up if you want some more college themed romances. Very similar to The Deal, I have Blindside by Kandi Steiner, and I actually just finished this book this week and thought it was perfect to include it in this video. In this book, we are also following a fake dating relationship between Clay and Gianna. At the beginning of this book, we see that Clay was just recently dumped by his long-term girlfriend, right? So she was his high school sweetheart. She was the girl that he thought he was going to marry one day. And we see that this breakup is really affecting his football performance and image. Gianna is the PR coordinator of their football team, right? So she notices that Clay's behavior is changing, and she decides to meet up with him to kind of set him straight. As they're both meeting up at this restaurant, Clay somehow notices that Gianna is very infatuated with the musician that comes to perform at the restaurant, right? So again, he proposes that if Gianna agrees to fake date him to make his ex jealous, then he will help her get noticed by the musician. As we know, Gianna is very inexperienced in like relationships and intimacy in general, right? So if she's ever going to make a move, this is her chance. Eventually, as they are playing their little game, each one of them do get very possessive over each other, right? And they both realize that their emotions and their feelings might not be so fake after all. This book does have less school in it, right? But they do have the usual college sports and parties going on. Next, I have Voyeur by Fiona, and in this book, we are following Oakland, a newly college student who is struggling to pay for tuition and rent, right? Oakland is offered an opportunity to work at a sex club called Voyeur, right? And so at the sex club, she will be paid a ton of money to perform like requested scenes behind this one-way mirror. Obviously, she wasn't so eager to jump at this opportunity, right? But she's kind of at this dead end. She can't really find a job that'll be able to pay for her expenses, right? So she does give this a try. Enter Callum, right? So Callum is our main hero, and we see that he frequents this club a lot. And so he sees Oakland for the first time there. Of course, Callum is very smitten with her, right? But at the start of college semester, he notices that Oakland is actually one of his students. And so obviously this overcomplicates everything. Callum is now struggling to keep his feelings from her and from making a mistake that will put his career on the line, right? And he's also dealing with the fact that he knows about Oakland's nighttime job. We have the forbidden student-teacher relationship going on, right? And we also see that Callum is also dealing with his own demons, right? So this book is just full of tension and full of spice. Another similar book is called The Love Hypothesis by Elle Hazelwood, and in this book we're also following a student-professor relationship, right? But this one's like less forbidden, it's more like a rom-com. In this book we're following Olive and Dr. Adam Carlson. Okay, so Olive is actually this third-year PhD student. At the beginning of this book we see that Olive's best friend has a crush on her ex, right? But her friend refuses to do anything because she doesn't want to break that girl code, even after Olive told her that she no longer has feelings for her ex. So in order to convince her friend that she's moved on, she lies to her and says that she's already seeing somebody else, right? And is in fact going on a date with this mystery guy tonight. On that night, Olive hides out in the college labs, right? Pretending to be on this date that she lied about. And then she notices that her friend is actually on campus and is coming towards her direction. So as she is panicking, she decides to kiss the first guy that she sees, right? And of course, this guy is our hero, and he is Dr. Adam Carlson, who we know is this grumpy professor that every student hates. Embarrassed and ashamed, Olive continues to ask Adam to help her with this facade, and surprisingly, he doesn't reject her. So pretty much throughout this book, we are following their fake relationship, right, as they pretend to be that loving couple that they claim to be. Lines obviously get crossed and everything, and they develop feelings for each other, and so this was actually a very, very cute read. Alright, so the last book I have for you is called A Love Letter to Whiskey by Kandi Steiner. And in this book, our characters are in school for like the first half of the book, and then the second half is their adult years. So we do see that this book spans over several years. Our heroine in this book goes by B, right? And she is on her routine run on the beach with her best friend Jenna. And quite literally, she bumps into our hero, who is Jamie, right, and falls to the ground. As Jamie helps her up, B can't help but notice how attractive this guy is, right? And she just knows that he is different from every single guy in their school. The problem is, it seems that Jamie doesn't notice B the same way she notices him, right? And he actually takes a liking to her best friend Jenna instead. Eventually, Jenna and Jamie do start dating, right? And B is just on the sidelines, and she's trying her very best to conceal her feelings towards Jamie. However, we see that B and Jamie have so much in common, and they quickly become good platonic friends over the years. This is obviously just the start of their relationship, right? And there's so much more to this book, but I do think that you should go into this book blind and just enjoy the story from there. I will say that this book is the definition of right person, wrong timing, okay? And at times it does get really frustrating, but it was such a good read. Alright, that's a wrap for me, and if you made it to the end, thank you so much for being here. As always, please like, share, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. Definitely check out my other recommendations videos as well, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.